Hey everybody, it's Bust with week 4 of the Champion Draft Series. This week we're up against Los Charlangas, headed up, managed, battled with, fighting by, owned by, managed again, played with Sley. And so apologies if I butchered any of your team or personal name there. I'm not particularly good at saying words. Meant no disrespect if they came out wrong. But moving into week 4, this is the first week since the variety patch has been released, and the nerfs to Cosmic Call and concurrent timelines are a big definer of the previous 3 weeks and what we're going to see over the course of the next 4 weeks. And so with our lineup in particular, we did draft this intending to play a whole bunch of concurrent timelines. We drafted the Jinx, the Vi, and the Caitlyn with the idea that we could bring 3 timelines decks each week if we wanted to. And now that's pretty much off the table. This week in general, concurrent timelines is just banned because it's apparently currently bugged. But even without the bug in place, I had no intentions of playing it. The other thing that brings to the table are people were playing Targonian champions just to play Cosmic Call. Our opponent this week, Sley, was playing Shyvana, Aurelion Sol, dragons in air quotes. There were absolutely no dragon cards within the deck other than Aurelion Sol and Shyvana. There were no Demacian cards in the deck other than Shyvana. It was just a Cosmic Call deck through and through. We saw some other players do this as well. I know Shada X was playing Tarek Cosmic Call, and it was just basically if you had a Targonian champion, you were playing Cosmic Call. And so that was one of the big defining features of the lineups that you were bringing each week. It was kind of one of the weak points to our lineup is you don't really want to be playing concurrent timelines into Cosmic Call, and I didn't really piece together that everybody was going to be playing Cosmic Call. And so with the nerfs to timelines and the nerfs to Cosmic Call, it's definitely going to be shaking up what you see over the course of the next month. We made some roster changes with that note in mind. Vi and Caitlyn no longer a part of the Bandle City Buster Shots. They have been released for the general public to pick up. And in their place, we have picked up Jarvan IV and LeBlanc, who you'll be seeing later on today. And here we have Sley's draft. He was pick 1 of the draft, and I really like what he did. And so if you weren't familiar with the draft phase, if you didn't catch it, he gets the first pick of the draft. It cycles through all of the players 1 to 10, cycles back from 10 to 1, and then he gets 2 picks in a row. And so the things that you're going to kind of run into in that space is if you want to take your champion synergies, you need to do it right together, right? If you're looking to draft a highly synergistic champion, say you wanted to draft Rek'Sai Pyke, right? And you take Rek'Sai with your 3rd pick, and then you have to wait another 20 picks to see if Pyke comes back around. If Pyke doesn't make it back, then your Rek'Sai is probably useless. And so I really like how he managed this draft in the sense with pick 1, he took one of the most powerful champions in the game that really just flexes into a lot of decks, right? You can play a variety of decks with Seraphine, any kind of control deck you can really kind of manage with her, any P and Z control. But then as it was kind of in the midpoints of the draft, he was taking Aatrox Kayn and Aurelion Sol Shyvana, which are champions that, you know, work nicely if they have the correct pairing of 2 or 3 separate champions, right? Aatrox works well with Kayn, he works with Vayne. To a lesser degree, he works with something like Fizz for the 1-drops matter deck. But if you're not landing within one of those specific decks, you're really playing on the fringes in terms of these champions. And so with those 2 back-to-back picks, he was able to pick up some really highly cohesive and synergistic champions. I like what he did with that space. To think to the lineups that he's brought up to this point, though, you've had the chance to play 9 separate decks to this point, right? And he's only brought 4. And so across 3 of his matches, he brought Seraphine Nora, which I expect to see again today. And all 3 of his matches, he also brought Shyvana, Aurelion Sol. This was the Cosmic Call deck we mentioned, to where it's air quotes dragons, to where the only dragons are Aurelion Sol, Shyvana. There's no Demacia cards. It's just Cosmic Call. He's brought Aatrox Kayn twice, and then he brought Viego Riven once. This is basically just the Viego with the Legion Deserter. And so I expect to see similar things progressing throughout this event. The only thing that happened to his lineup is he did catch the Cosmic Call nerf onto Aurelion Sol, which, you know, is fine, I would think, in his sense. You know, you should be really considering playing dragons at this point, and it's not like he was just like hard drafting a Cosmic Call deck, and now his Cosmic Call deck is just wasted, right? He can't actually come out and play dragons if he wants to with these champions. But the way that I kind of look at this lineup is, while it is nice that he's able to draft these very high synergies, right? The Aatrox Kayn and the Shyvana Aurelion Sol, it gives us things that we're able to target. And so, like, I think with very high probability, he's going to be bringing Seraphine Nora again. The only other Seraphine decks that I could imagine is you can play Seraphine with Riven and then look to play the Plaza Guardian Iterative Improvement style of deck. But I really expect him to just bring the Back Alley Bar deck over and over and over again. The problem with Seraphine and the lineup that he has here is you can't play Seraphine Aatrox, you can't play Seraphine Kayn, those aren't decks. You can't play Seraphine Demacia, that's not a deck. You can't play Seraphine Aurelion Sol, that's not a deck. You could play Seraphine Pike if there's something in Bilgewater that you really want, but that doesn't sound like a deck to me either. And so your options are either leave Seraphine at home, figure out how to play Seraphine Viego, or play Seraphine Nora. I suspect at the end of the day we're going to see Seraphine Nora. Tying back into that Nora, I don't think that she's a legitimate target to kind of pull out of this deck. With Nora, you're usually looking to either pair her off with, say, Freylord, so you can use like Warden of the Tribes combos, or you can use Spirits Unleashed, you can use spells to give her Overwhelm and stuff, or you're looking to pair her into specific Shadow Isles champions like Vhagar. I don't think those things are really on the table. I think that she is going to just have to be kind of in a supporting role, and the only deck in here that really makes sense for Nora to support in is going to be Seraphine. And so I think we're going to see Seraphine Nora, and I think that we're going to see Aatrox Kayn. Aatrox Kayn has kind of the same problem with it, if you will, in the sense that you can play, say, Aatrox Quinn and have that Demacia component, but that deck is really counting on Vayne, right? You play Aatrox Vayne, and then Quinn is just in there because you can draw the Aatroxes with the course of your playing of equipment. You aren't specifically playing Quinn because she's spectacularly good in Aatrox. A lot of times I just don't even play Quinn, right? Aatrox is legitimate on his own. It's very reasonable to play Aatrox Vayne with no Quinn in it. And so I don't really expect to see that. It could potentially be a thing, but I don't think that Aatrox and Kayn are going to be broken apart. And in the event that he does, I don't think that those decks are particularly worrisome. And so looking at this, like the things that I suspect are potential decks are, you're going to have a Seraphine deck. It's either going to be Seraphine Nora or Seraphine Riven. Those decks are exactly the same to me. That's completely fine. Otherwise, you're going to have Aatrox Kayn, which is a reasonable deck. If not that, you're going to have Aatrox with Quinn, which just seems like a worse version of Aatrox Kayn to me. This is going to be a unit-based, equipment-based, attacky style Aatrox deck. That's completely fine. Within the remainder of the space of this lineup, I think that he could bring dragons, right? You just have to push away from Cosmic Call and say, fuck, I have both of these dragon cards. I have to play dragons, which doesn't strike me as particularly strong in the realm of Eternal. It does strike me as strong against decks that I like to play. Having the big kind of meaty mid-rangey decks is typically pretty good against what I like to play. But I think that's not, a particularly strong option. And then there's Viego. You can play Viego Control. You can load up any champion in here you want with Viego. You can play Viego in some kind of control deck, whether or not that's like, I don't know, Viego Aurelion Sol. Like he is a deck all in of himself. And then you can fit in any other faction to kind of get the rest of your Viego deck going. And so at the end of the day, that's what I think we're going to see. We're going to have, to me, I feel like I'm about 90% certain on this. We're going to see a Seraphine-based back alley bar control deck. That's going to be Seraphine Nora. We're going to see Aatrox Kayn. And then we're going to either see some Shadow Isles deck, which we're just going to ban, or we're going to see the Dragons deck, which we're just going to ban. And so as we move forward to our deck lists, that is the intent, is we're going to play against Seraphine Nora or whatever Seraphine deck that he looks to bring. We're going to play against Aatrox Kayn, and then we're just going to come out and ban the Viego. Like, I have no intentions of playing against Shadow Isles today. I don't care what Viego is paired with. We're not playing against that. If he doesn't bring Viego, then we can just ban whatever mid-rangey deck looks worse for us after that. And so with that in mind, we can bring that to our deck lists. And so, again, we're thinking that we're going to be playing against Aatrox Kayn, and we're going to play against Seraphine Back Alley Bar. And so the things that both of those decks have in common are they can be slowed down quite a bit with the Explorers. If we look at Aatrox Kane, if you're able to blow up one or two of their equipment, it really, really, really limits their ability to cast the World Ender, gives us plenty of time to really progress through the game. The big draws that really worry me out of an Aatrox Kane deck are when you have the Cultist at 4 mana, and then you load it up with the Darkened Harp and you're attacking with all of this big damage over and over and over again. If you're able to take that equipment away and they're just attacking with a mid-rangey scout unit, that's completely fine. And so I don't want to say that the Explorers completely just beat that deck, but the Explorers are quite good. Then also moving over to the Seraphine Back Alley Bar deck, I don't know if you've had the opportunity to blow up a Back Alley Bar with an Explorer spell, but it feels incredibly, incredibly good. And so looking at his past lists, it looks to me like the deck is highly, highly, highly dependent on the Pursuit of Perfection to win the game, or it needs the Back Alley Bar. And the Explorers can help fight both of those, in the sense that we can just blow up the Back Alley Bar. That always feels pretty good. And then we can use the Explorer's spell to take Overwhelm off of the Pursuit of Perfection. And so ideally, if he's going to beat us with the Pursuit of Perfection, he's going to need to play the Pursuit of Perfection, play an Iterative Improvement to copy it, get the second copy on board, and then attack with both. It's not to say that's not doable, but it's a pretty tall order within a deck that only plays one copy of Iterative Improvement and one copy of the Pursuit of Perfection. And so with that in mind, as we pull up our deck list, the first one we have on the screen here is LeBlanc Trundle. This is just a Warden of the Tribes deck. Warden of the Tribes is spectacularly strong against both Seraphine and against Aatrox. Just Aatrox can't handle the gigantic units once they hit the board. Seraphine is just trying to block and block and block and block with a bunch of small units, and the big Overwhelm component is able to fight through that and crash in at the end of the day. And so with those ideas in mind, we of course have the Warden of the Tribes in the deck, but we have a fairly Overwhelm heavy collection of units between the Frostcoat Cub, the Mighty Poro, the Glacial Saurion, the Ancient Yetis, giving us the Overwhelms there. Trundle gets Overwhelm on flip as it is. And then we have a lot of combos with LeBlanc. Having access to rallies in this space is quite good as well. Being able to copy the Incisive Tactician, copy the Warden of the Tribes, copy the Glacial Saurion, copy the Trifarian Assessor. All of these are very powerful combos. I especially like LeBlanc in the sense of playing against Aatrox Kane, and Aatrox Kane not having a particularly strong answer to get LeBlanc off of the board. Seraphine's just going to kill her every game, sure, but she does have a lot of merit in the Aatrox Kane match. And so that's the general idea with this deck, right? It's a Warden of the Tribes deck, has some of the kind of Ash LeBlanc copy stuff components to it, but then it also has the 3 copies of Scholarly Pioneer to be able to slow down those equipment and destroy those back alley bars. And then we're over here playing spells like Calling Strike capable of killing Nora, Calling Strike is capable of killing Seraphine, and it can kill a Kane if he only gets +1 attack off of his weapon. And so very versatile removal spell in that sense. I really like this deck up against both of those potential offerings. Up next, we have Poppy Lulu. This is another deck more so designed to be strong against the Seraphine deck. It's a little bit weaker against Aatrox Kane, but it does have a lot of those same ideals, right? We have the Portal Pioneers at 2 copies. We have the Scholarly Pioneers at 2 copies, so we've kicked it up to 4 Explorers instead of just 3. These Explorers typically understated, but if we're giving them bonuses from Lulu, giving them bonuses from Poppy, we can turn them into real combat monsters. And this deck just has a very, very strong Poppy-Teric style component to it, to where if we're just going to kind of stare at each other back and forth and not really do anything, I'm just going to do more powerful stuff than you. And so I really like that aspect coming out of this. The rally component should give the Seraphine deck some fits, to where Aatrox Kane not particularly good at removing a Poppy off of the board. And so very heavy board control elements within this, very heavy Explorer component. And then if you can't see it in here, we're also playing 3 copies of Stony Suppressor. Very powerful card in the face of the Back Alley Bar deck. This is a card much like the Explorers. I don't expect it to win the game. I don't say like, cool, we drew our Back Alley Bar against Seraphine, we automatically win. That's not the case, but you can typically make them spend like 2 or 3 extra mana, removing a unit that they don't want to remove, right? So if they have to play a Mystic Shot and a High Note for 6 mana, not only did we get the card advantage, needing a 2-for-1 to take the suppressor off the board. We got the mana advantage as well. Spending 2 mana on a card for 6 mana of our opponents really lets us help come in and tempo them out of the game. And so very powerful with the Stony Suppressor, especially if we're able to give it some unit boosts off of Poppy or off of Lulu. It's very nice to be able to take these crappy attackers like Portal Pioneer and Stony Suppressor, boost up the stat line with the Lulu, and turn them into real combat monsters. Last but not least, we have a different style of deck. This is one I don't feel ultra comfortable with this. Like, if we get 2-0'd on a deck this week, it's going to be our Bandle Tree deck. But this is another match to where it just strikes me as being exceptionally good. And so as we look at the opponent's, say, Nora Seraphine deck, it's not like they're playing Plaza Guardians to where they have the angle to flood the board with a bunch of Plaza Guardians and then get the kill with like 4 or 5 attacks from the really big unit. As far as that deck goes, he has to kill you with Pursuit of Perfection, or he has to kill you with some kind of just massive value out of Seraphine and Back Alley Bar. And so I really like this deck in the sense that we're playing Disintegrates and Scorched Earths to give us a very heavy-duty way to keep those Pursuit of Perfections off of the board. And then once those are gone, like, ideally we're just fine, right? We do have the 5 Explorers within this deck between the Portal Pioneer and the Armed Acquisitioner to help slow down the opponent's game plan. And then if we're just going to grind and grind and grind and grind, you're not going to outgrind the Bandle Tree, right? I don't intend on winning the game with the Bandle Tree. If we do, that's great. The opponent does typically have the likes of 1 Explorer and 1 Aftershock to potentially remove it off the board, but the value that we just generate off of the Bandle Tree should be enough to just come in and win the game. Otherwise, looking at the Aatrox Kane matchup, the Bandle Tree does present a lot of issues and problems for that deck. It doesn't typically have any kind of landmark removal, and so if we're able to just stall out the game a little bit, we should be in good shape. And so again, with this massive Explorer package, I don't expect them to completely end the game. You don't kill 1 Darken equipment and say, oh boy, I just won the game. But destroying that equipment does do a ton of work in terms of prolonging the game an extra 2, maybe 3 turns, really slowing down the oncoming, what do you call it, Aatrox spell, the oncoming World Ender, and giving us time to really pop off with the Bandle Tree. But in that kind of similar vein that we were talking about, being able to destroy the opposing Pursuit of Perfection with Disintegrates and Scorched Earths, those are also quite good against Aatrox and Kane. They're a little bit more protected with the potential for spell shields, but those removal spells are quite strong. But otherwise, a nice value engine within this deck. The Explorers, the Grandfather Fae, the Bandle City Mayor, the Loping Telescope all generate cards. The Aloof Traveler draws cards. We have things like Pokestick as just a nice value play. And then those Calling Strikes are turning up again, giving us a way to kill Seraphine and Nora and the unleveled Kane, all wrapped up in 1 removal spell. And so, with the deck lists out of the way, you all know what we have to do. We aren't that particularly strong of players. We need every edge that we can get, and so we come out here and pay to win. And this week, we're going to be going a little bit bigger on that pay to win. We're going to level up the Bandle Tree. This is the deck I'm hoping just gets banned so we don't have to play it. But if we do have to play it, I'm hoping that we're able to get a little bit of extra power out of the Bandle Tree. And so this is a fantastic card to turn prismatic. All of the cards that it generates will then be prismatic as well. Get you access to those prismatics you may not normally have. And boom, there it is. The pay to win price has been paid. Feels good. Now let's jump in and check out Sley's lineup he'll be bringing this week. Okay, so our opponent's lineup is very much what we were expecting. Nora Seraphine turned up, Aatrox Kane turned up, so the 2 matchups we were looking to play made an appearance, and then out here in the middle, the Shyvana Aurelian Soul makes the appearance over top of Viego. And so I feel like that's a bit of a win for us. I was kind of in the back of my head worried, what happens if he leaves Seraphine at home and he just brings these little bit bigger mid-rangey decks into our mid-rangey piles, right? If you have to go up against Viego, which is miserable, go against Shyvana Aurelian Soul, which is going to be miserable, and then Aatrox Kane, which we are designed to play against, but it doesn't feel like it's, as amazing as a matchup as you would want it to be. it was a little bit worrisome. But he decided to shelf the Viego, coming at us with the Nora Seraphine and the Aatrox Cane, which is fine. As far as I can tell, these look like the exact same lists from the previous weeks that he's been playing. I notice there isn't a Pursuit of Perfection within the removal pile out here, and so maybe there have been some changes, but it's very tough for me to zone in and actually see what these Nora decks are doing. And so as far as I can tell, this is pretty much the same stuff. The 2 temples, the 1 bar, doesn't look like there's a Pursuit of Perfection, and then just removal all the way through and through. And then the Aatrox Cane deck, the same one that we've been seeing as well. You know, nothing too crazy coming out of this. This full 6 copies of the good equipment, 9 equipment in total, didn't go up to 10 with the 3rd Bloodletters, the 3 choices, the 3 strikes, and then the 2 utility spells up at the top end. Nothing crazy in here like the dude that generates 2-cost spells. And so we got the matchups we wanted. Let's see what we can do. And all right, off we go. There we at Noxus, Rally, the Tree, and the Yordle. Let's jump on in. Drop the ban right on those dragons. See what we can do. It hurts. It hurts to say stuff like drop the ban on the dragons. I feel like we should be playing dragons on our own, but you know, that's where we're at. That's the world we live in. And so we'll go ahead and take Shyvana Asol down. I'm curious to see if he's willing to battle against the Bandle tree or if he brings the ban onto Poppy. Poppy has been our, you know, most common ban up to this point, and he says no thank you to the tree. Whew. glad we don't have to deal with that. So let's kick things off with Poppy. I feel like if we have to play 2 matches with the deck, I'd like to play Poppy twice. And we're off to the races, doing battle up against Nora Seraphine. Reasonable enough curve here. We don't have anything in our start that lets us interact with a Nora, but outside of that, I think this is a pretty reasonable go. I like this nice curve that we have going on. Ideally, you know, he'll have to make the decision if he wants to play Nora or if he wants to play interactive removal spells. And, you know, maybe after turn 2 here, we'll just pick up a challenger. All right, off to the races, though. Jump on in there, bird. Aggro at its finest. The 1-drop comes in, it aggroes, we begin, and oh, the Stony Suppressor turns up. I was really interested in what would happen if that chime comes in and just lands on the suppressor. Takes so much work to take it off the board at that point, but we're getting the bonuses. That feels kind of good. You know, you got to assume that there's going to be another spell coming in. He needs something to immediately hit the Stony Suppressor now, as we're going to drop Lulu on the board. He can't just let us heal the suppressor back up to full, and so he shouldn't be able to make any tempo plays here. He shouldn't be able to do the thing to where, you know, you put a 2-cost Explorer on the board and then play a Mystic Shot. You gotta take the suppressor down right now. Looks good to me. But exactly what we were talking about in the sense of the suppressors, right? We got a 2-for-1. We got 6 mana for our 2 mana. Just an all-around pretty good deal. Now we can kind of pivot over to these other aggressive options. I don't think this will be a Relentless Pursuit on our next turn. I think we'll get Relentless Pursuit down 2 turns from now, and we'll just keep playing on curve here. So let's drop in the War Chefs. We'll drop in the second War Chefs. Should be able to get a Poppy flip on this next combat. And then have the Relentless Pursuit ready on turn 6. +1 cost to the Telescope would be kind of a bummer. Ooh, we put the... I guess that makes sense. Shrinking down the Bandle City Mayor. I was just thinking in terms of this sweet curve we're about to pull off, right? Dropping the Mayor into the Telescope, and if he gets the plus cost on it, it messes with it in that sense. But let's lead in with the Mayor. We have to assume that he's just gonna die. But if we pick up a 2-drop here, we can still slam it on the board. And Minion seems okay. You know, his combats into Minion aren't particularly good. We just get that unit back turn after turn. Right? RIP our board. And so assuming we get to attack here, I'm going to War Chefs up the smaller one. It's a lot more challenging for his deck to deal 3 damage than it is for 2. And so we can boost up the smaller War Chef with the big one ideally here. All right, well, lost a lot of our friends. a lot of our friends have seen better days. So what do we got? A Telescope of Broadwing and Lulu. All right. He's wearing us down. The removal is churning through. So Telescope comes in. Yordle Ranger's pretty big. That should be a pretty challenging unit for him to actually deal with. So let's snatch it up. Now I'm curious. I mean, it just has to be Lulu, right? If we want to continue to play on curve. I think I like it. I mean, again, there's not just playing the removal pile, right? So like getting a Yordle Ranger active and just boosting the health on all of our allies, such a huge deal. And of course, Poppy turns up to give us the actual big decision. I think like rolling into turn 8 with access to Poppy is going to be the way to go here, right? Well, what's he really want to do this turn? He really just wants to play back alley bar. We're 1 short of the lethal as it stands. It's like, I just worry that if we take the Yordle Ranger and he plays back alley bar, we attack with the Ranger, he blocks with the Pioneer, then we get to attack again. That just seems fine. That seems like enough. And then next turn we can look to Poppy Pursuit. All right, bonus stats for the team. She gonna flip? He's played a ton of spells up to this point. Yeah, she's at 8 of 9. So he'll play the first one for free, and then the second ones will be ready to copy. Or the first one will be a single, I should say. And then the second and third spell off the Song Spinner should get doubled. Oh, it just did it naturally off the thing with her on the stack. Wouldn't know. the amount of Seraphines that we play, almost non-existent. Ooh, there's a big blocker. All right. What do we got now? Monkey Business ready for the big blocks. Does that just shut down our attack at this point? It has to. I think that's okay. And a time trick. So he's definitely going to start ramping up. But again, like I'm not certain how he actually wins a game. Got the cat from last week's in here ready to sit on my feet. But I mean, I know we can get this big mountain of card advantage, but I feel like we can still fight through it. As we wait on the predicts, I can tell the cat's just over here thinking about it. I'm ready. I'm ready to sit on your feet. All right, we're good. So take a couple points of damage, sure. We have a rally and a Poppy. See how bad it can get. I'm not crazy with this, right? Like, how does this deck actually win? It's got Gale Song Calls and stuff, a big removal pile. He still has another Song Spinner in the deck, 3 Conchologists that he hasn't played yet. So I'm going to go ahead and drop in the Poppy first. The thing with this to me is if he has a answer to Poppy and has to make the investment in getting Poppy taken off of the board, we can still just play the secondary Poppy that we have in hand, open attack next turn, and then try and finish it off with the Relentless Pursuit. So it looks like this will be a Bandle Tellstones into an Electro Harpoon. Takes the Poppy off the board. We've got a second one. Now maybe we're close enough. Got to be so close, right? Bird's coming in, so he's definitely got the blockers. And with this attack, I'm going to look to use Lulu to boost Poppy. I want her to have maximum stats on this next turn. Like, if he's going to start removal piling our units, I want them to be in the space to where, you know, Mystic Shot's not enough to kill Poppy, right? A doubled Mystic Shot only dealing 4 damage. And Nora comes in. All right. Getting us low. Things are getting dangerous. I guess this is how the deck wins, huh? I guess this is how it does it. Let's see. Combat number 1 rolling through. The Lulu bonus. Ooh, the Poppy thing happening. The timely combat trick rolling in. Let's see if we can't take it down. I think this is the part where you just want to see him play a back alley bar, right? He says, okay, I'm not dead. Here's my back alley bar. I'm going to spend all my mana on this thing. All right, the Poppy protection coming in. I have to imagine she's going to die this turn, right? He's got 6 mana. Seems like a reasonable assumption that Poppy is not long for the world. Takes down 2 units. That's scary. I don't know, fam. I don't know. We really need to get the Seraphine off the board this turn. I think we got to just go ahead and slam. Oh no, is he going to take down our Lulu as well? Oh no, a wallop. That's not good. That's not good, fam. I think we still need to send the squad. Getting this block on Nora would be great. Just so close to getting that edge in to take the game down. It's like he's going to start generating in the portals. We're so close to the end. I don't think we're going to be able to get in this last 2 points of damage. We really need to pick up some of our top end here. Portal comes in. How bad was that one? Oh my god, he hit a 6/6. Okay. I guess to a degree, the units don't really matter in the sense that we just need to be wider than him, right? If we're not going to be wider than him, we're not going to be able to get the kills anyways. But yeah, I got to imagine that this one is done. Especially if he casts a spell onto Lulu. Well, she can be protected. That's a bit of a perk. So do we ever try and Relentless Pursuit on this turn? The nice thing... we can't. There's no way. We need to go into next turn and like maybe find a Cythria or something. Falling to 6 is pretty scary. I don't think we can just block with Lulu. That's just too much. If he has the... Well... I was going to say, if he has the removal spell to kill Lulu, I don't know, she's only preventing 2 points of damage. Maybe we just block with the minion, right? A living minion is going to be enough to take the Feral Mystic off of the board. Oh, he pulls it back. Okay. All right, we got to draw something good. This is one of those turns where you need, like, the Bandle City Mayor into a big 6-drop or something. He pranked it wrong. He did not prank our Relentless Pursuit. All right, we'll just let it go. We could have, looked to have rallied and gotten a Petricite Broadwing hook or something, but that just doesn't strike me as doing it. Hi, friends. Let's get some of those good combats in here. Oh, that was brutal. I didn't even realize our unit was just going to die. All right, that's going to do it. We're too far sunk in this one. All right, the Seraphine takes us down. I guess that's how they win the game, huh? He didn't need a bar. He didn't need a pursuit of perfection. He just needed the removal pile. All right, so we're switching over to Aatrox Kane. I'm gonna switch over to Trundle LeBlanc. I think that the big warden may be able to bring some of that magic we're looking for here. So let's see, a reasonable enough start with the House Spider and the Ancient Yeti. Give us a little bit of early board presence, and oh boy, that's a mulligan. Somebody's definitely gonna be playing off of the top today, and that's us. That's us. But it couldn't have asked for a better top deck. That's the way the pros do it, right there. So what do we got? Just the draw perfects right off the top. That's what you like to see. You mulligan into 2 8-drops, and then you just draw a 1 and a 3. That's the way you're supposed to do it. All right, so let's get our friend LeBlanc on board. Should be pretty tough for the opposing deck to deal with. As it stands, we have a reasonable attack with this House Spider as well. We'll have to see if he adds anything else to the board. Again, there shouldn't be too much that Cultists is capable of interacting with LeBlanc. Just the mountain of stats, right? He hasn't played an equipment yet or anything. She just seems very safe here. Now, a Bloody Business. I like playing it as a removal spell this turn, assuming that we get to Bloody Business. The next turn, we can play the 3-mana Yeti and have the Troll Chant on board. And then rolling into turn 6, we should. We won't have the reputation on 6, right? We'll be 1 short. We'll have the LeBlanc flip, but we won't have the reputation. But is there anything that he would play on this turn that we're like really interested in hitting with the Bloody Business? I don't think so. Like, I think that we just need to save it for like an Aatrox or a Kane. So let's prevent this big chunk. Taking the hit off of the Fanatic seems fine. He does have the Shadow Fiend in hand, but if he's going to look to play Shadow Fiend next turn, then the blocks still aren't very good. So I think we just take this big bank, see if we can't find a play for this next turn, and then if we are really wanting to Tactician, we should have thought of the Bloody Business. That can give us the 4th strike with our big friends out here. So let's see how that stands. Look like a combat trick's about to roll in. Unforgiven Cold. That is a disaster. So, I mean, we can get out of our units dying with the Troll Chant, but it's a real bummer to see that one hit. So we'll give 2 to LeBlanc, neg 2 to the Bakai. Our units thankfully survive. And then let's see how this next turn goes. Pretty reasonable enraged fire spitter here. He's ready to take down the Forsaken Bakai. I'm curious to see if just the likes of a like Aatrox comes in on the board. Doesn't happen. So this feels pretty safe. I don't think we need to block with the House Spider. 10 health is still pretty high. I think we'll be in a good spot to just drop the Flame Spitter, kill off the Forsaken Bakai, and then try and get the big rally attacks in next turn. You'll notice how big this dragon is. Look at that. 9/5. That ought to count as a double flip for LeBlanc, you know? It would come in and generate 2 mirror images in this space. Looking at it like that, you know, we attack 5 damage from the Yeti, flips LeBlanc, and then we have 15, or actually 16 from LeBlanc and the Fire Spitter. Very big combat that we have potential for. I'm not certain if that's the angle we're going to be taking here. I kind of like looking at harsh winds on this turn. But let's stop and marinate on this for a moment. And so we're wanting to, at the end of the day, be casting Incisive Tactician. He's going to be a 6-mana play. It only leaves us with 4 mana. We can do the Bloody Business if we want, or we can take these 3 strikes. I'm just really kind of looking towards this multi-hook turn, right? And so I'm thinking, you know, let's just give up on the Yeti. We'll swing in this way. Gonna hook his lifesteal in on the Fire Spitter since it won't die. And then we can kind of see how he reacts to this. I assume there's most certainly gonna be a block coming in on the Yeti. And then if we really need to, we can just harsh winds 2 of these units down. It's like, what are the chances that we're gonna run into a second? I think we're safe with like the Bloody Business facing down Kane and Aatrox. So let's just go ahead and harsh winds. Okay, what's he going to do is, like, as soon as he plays Kane, we can just try and pop him with the Bloody Business. It's not to say that he won't have access to, like, the Expanse's Protection, the Spell Shield thing, but, I mean, all around this feels pretty safe. So he's got 2 mana behind. I have to 100% assume the Expanse's Protection is part of this, but we can't just let him stick the Aatrox and not try and get the takedown. Yeah. So, seems legit. Oh, a second harsh winds. Sick top deck, bro. Bringing in the top deck sick today. Ash LeBlanc says, "No, thank you. I will not give up. I will start with the 2 8-drops in my hand, but I'm just gonna draw perfect the rest of the way. Nothing wrong with drawing perfect." All right, so we'll go ahead and drop in the Tactician. Maybe we'll get the baits on the old Striatu coming in. He says that's too much. I don't even need to see the harsh winds. All right, game 3. This is the one that worries me. We do have the cards within the Poppy deck, like Stony Suppressor, that just aren't really spectacular in this match, and so we do have the opportunities for some bad draws, but we also have a lot of draws that can come in and just completely overwhelm. So I think it's fine to start with the War Chefs and the Poppy. We don't have the density of 1-drops in this deck to make me want to hard mulligan for them. Found them anyways, which is pretty good. And the Portal Pioneer is actually a very interesting draw here in the sense that if we play it on turn 3, we'll get the Attune, and then we can immediately blow up an equipment. So we'll see. I have no intentions to just make this trade with the Cultist. We are just going to be dropping Poppy. And if we can keep these units alive, that's the angle I'd rather take here. All right, so destroy an equipment. This should just be a massive curve breaker here, right? He wants to drop an equipment onto the Keeper of the Box, but we have the removal in check. Now Poppy's ready to party. The thing that's a bit of a bummer here with this situation is he does have that possibility to, like, he could have played an equipment and then struck with our Malfunction on the stack, but it's not quite enough here. But strong attack this way. All of our units are going to be bigger than his units. He can plain expensive +2 attack to take down Poppy, but we just naturally have the good combat here. Looks like that's what he's going to have to do. So rip Poppy, but strong board presence. Now we can Mayor into Telescope while still having access to the equipment. So Kane gets the strike. Nothing we can do about that, but leave us in a reasonable spot to hook something out of combat next turn. In with the Mayor. What you got for us? Not a particularly strong Mayor. I think we want to go with the Bandle Painter out of this one. We're not in the space to where we really need another equipment destruction right now, and discarding these Stony Suppressors seems pretty good. So I'm going to go with the Painter. Then do we want to play Painter or Telescope? I'm leaning towards Painter. It's going to be a bigger attacker next turn. We hit the Shark Trainer, ready to summon the biggest of Shark Tooths. Ooh. Oh man, everything is just rolling in now. So what's the worst that happens this turn? Like Aatrox? Aatrox seems pretty bad. I think we're 100% going to play the Fleet Feather Tracker. And then it's going to be a matter of, do we want to Lulu the Tracker? Or do we want to get the Shark Trainer on board? Either way, we're 100% playing the Fleet Feather Tracker this round. And now we just have to see if he's got, like, Aatrox, right? Does. So, I mean, the Shark Trainer is bigger than all of his units at this point. We can look to make one of these attacks to where, like, we hook the Keeper of the Box out of combat. Is that good enough? The other option is to look towards, like, the Sacrificial Lulu, right? Her support isn't enough, though, right? It'll only make the tracker a 4/4 at this point. She'll flip, but her support is the one that gives the flip, so she won't be making a 5/5. So let's lead in with the Telescope. God, the Shark Trainer just seems so good, though. I don't think the Lulu play is enough. So we're 100% taking the hook in on this. Dude comes in, he's 4/2. I think we want it to look this way. Got to hit with everybody. This is a pretty brutal combat. He's really going to start going over the top of us here. But I think that's the way we got to go. Come on, cats. Oh my god. Oh, we're getting to take the Aatrox off the board? Oh no, does he have another plus? He has another combat trick? Fuck, we're so dead now. We have to hit perfect. So Kane's going to go back to hand. Kane's just super has the capability to take this game over. Brutal. We had such a strong tempo run at this earlier. We can still maybe attack around this. We have, one more shot to make this okay. Maybe the telescopes will spike us some epics, It's never done when you got the telescopes in hand, ready to say, manifest me an epic, get me out of this nonsense. You can also find stuff like the cheap Celestials and finding a double stun, the Celestial stun thing. That can be pretty big as well. And so we definitely have some angles here. It's a telescope. What do you got? Tiana is pretty interesting for next turn. She actually gives us a rally. I don't think the Scholarly Pioneer is enough. So let's just go big. This is damage. I don't care about damage. I did the mathematics on that. Damage is not cared about. Let's get telescope number 2 in. And oh my gosh, Oh my gosh, the Crescent Strike came in. So we have this possibility now on the next turn. If we take this 3-bank, we can stun 2 of his units, attack, and then rally and come in again. I mean, that's how we have a shot. That's how we have a chance. Maybe, fam. Maybe. All right, telescopes. Let's see. Let's see if we can make the highlight reel. Oh my goodness. Let's see. Who even knows if it's enough damage, but you gotta go for it, right? Gotta go for it. Oh, come on. Come on. Every time there's something. So what's our next angle with this? The downside for us here is he is able to make strikes in the middle of combat, right? And so he has, oh god, he has both Shadow Step and the World Ender. I don't really feel like Tiana's enough anymore. Like if we make this attack, we can't attack with the telescopes, they just die to the Bakai. We can like I'm leaning towards like dropping the suppressor and dropping Lulu. And then looking into next turn. Well, if we play the suppressor, I'm looking to play the suppressor so that he can't play all these fucking removal spells, right? I guess, well, he has the Shadow Step. He doesn't have the second Aatrox. I mean, I just don't think we can get out of this turn without the rally coming in. This Lulu just doesn't do enough. So we need to attack like this. We're going to lose. We got to send everybody. He's going to get the good block, but we have to get some of this in. So now he's going to play the Shadow Step onto the Loping Telescope. Are we just dead to that? No, we're not. And then we can drop Tiana. We're just dead next turn, though. Yeah. Poor Poppy falling down. That's what we really needed in there. We can't lose the telescope, though, right? If the telescope falls to 1 health, he just kills it with Cane. Yeah. Whew. It's like we had such amazing tempo plays all throughout the beginning point of this game. It was like everything went our way. It's just every single turn, the right combat trick or the right spell was there. We drew so perfect with our Lulus, and it just completely fell apart. Let's see if he World Enders. That does kind of give us a chance to get Lulu on the board and then Whimsy something. You know, we got we got to find something good somewhere, you know. So he World Enders. I don't think we have the answer to 10-10 Aatrox, but bummer. So he's at 10. All right, that's going to be too much. GG. All right. So man, that was tough. Like the thing that I was worried about with that match is what actually turned up, in the sense that the Stony suppressors are just so dead, and we drew the 2. And so I guess that's kind of what you get with the way that game went with our, what's her name? With our LeBlanc deck, in the sense that we did draw pretty heavily perfect there, but that was just like such a bummer right on the edge, with those Stony suppressors just falling into the Aatrox Cane match and just not being able to do anything. But Whew, that's tough. It was very well played from the other side, but it's just like as you're getting that really big build up, and you have the big tempo play on the poppy turn, and they have the combat trick, and then you get into the next big combat, and they have the combat trick, and then you manage to find the stun, and then they have the expanses protection. It's just like at every single corner, like just the one little thing that you needed to go right just did not go right in that match, and so I'm still reasonably happy with our choice to play the poppy deck in this space. It's just that was it's not a match I want to say where you have to high roll to win. Like I think that's a very winnable match, especially as we have that good early game aggression and the tempo with the explorer. But the suppressors, if they were just like literally anything else, is kind of the pain point there. But that's the decision we made in bringing them. It wasn't like we were playing against someone that was playing. It wasn't like playing against Mage and Bay when we knew we were going to play against Rise and we were going to play against a Cosmic Call deck. And so every game you're playing against a very spell centric deck. As we were playing in this matchup, it was just a matter of a little bit too much. But looking back on some of the games, I'm kind of curious if we couldn't have, like in the initial Seraphine game, if we couldn't have held onto the Stony Suppressor just a little bit longer, and maybe got it into the space to where the opponent has spent a couple of removal spells before the Suppressor comes down, to kind of bait the time out that way. That was the actual like big surprise to me in this match, was that the Seraphine match went fine. It just surprised me that I guess they're able to outvalue you quite hard, and it just doesn't. Looking at the list, it doesn't look like they have it. But at the end of the day, they do have a lot of 2-for-1s running around, and that can be quite a bit to overcome. But nonetheless, good set of games. I had fun with that. I hope you did too, because that is going to do it for us today. So I hope everyone enjoyed the video. Hope you maybe learned a thing or two along the way, and you had a good time watching. This is Bust, and we thank you for being here.